Alright, so I think this is recording. I'm going to do some puzzles, custom puzzles, all themes, but in the rating range of 2000 to 2400. And maybe I'll do for like half an hour and go through my thought process. Okay, so immediately I notice that there's some battery here. Maybe this is potentially weak. It does seem that even if we were to like add a piece to it, that maybe white can just back up and defend properly. So I need to think about maybe something else. Other things I'm thinking about, this pawn is a little weak. Probably this puzzle isn't just to win a pawn. Also, yeah, actually it's kind of funny. I don't see the other immediate options that present themselves. Besides, does this work? Short answer seems to be absolutely not. So let's look at this again. Did I miss anything? Queen to d8. If bishop to c2. I did probably miss that there's rook to d2, which forks the two pieces. And even if rook takes, we have here, and even if the queen moves, it's not pinned to my queen because we have two rooks in the way. So I think that's the answer. And then here, I just take the queen, and then I grab the bishop. So that one ended up being pretty straightforward, even though initially I missed the theme, but then since there were no other options, I came back to it. White to play. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to look at was, can I move this with check? Imagine this pawn isn't here. Oh, great, I can win the rook. That's not happening here. But maybe there is a scenario where I drag the king out and this becomes check. King's looking pretty weak. So already I want to, in a practical game, I'd start thinking about potentials for doubling up and for sacrifice. So how can I make those themes work together? So if I were to just double up, I imagine black could do one of two different moves. And maybe I would struggle for a follow-up. If I take, okay, well, king takes is the only move to consider. I don't have this because of the queen. So instead, I would have to probably go here, which is check. King maybe runs back to the corner. I have this follow-up, which is threatening mate. So black would probably just protect the mate, and white has nothing for the rook. So maybe there has to be something better. So when I'm stuck in a position like this, and I feel like there are no more forcing moves, I have to consider, did I not properly calculate one of my moves? Or am I missing some other idea to maybe bring a piece to the king side? I must be missing something, right? I don't see any sort of queen sacrifice ideas. There's nothing that my bishop can do that can help. So, in that spirit, let me reinvestigate rook to g1. If g6, maybe I can take and take and take. King can't come to this file because there's going to be some mate. So after takes on g6, takes and takes. King has to come one of these two squares. Probably not here, seeing as that allows this check. So it must be better to come here. But even there I have queen h6. And it's not so easy. Because I'm like preparing to step ladder him. So before, that looks like that's convincing, but I should also check if here and here, what's my follow-up? Potentially I have bishop here. Yeah, already I have more promising, like I didn't really fully investigate the consequences of this move. So rook f7, I see two possibilities. Either I add this piece, or actually, yeah, probably I have to do that. Again, there's g6, and again I can probably take with the bishop this time, take with the rook, and then bring my queen in, and it looks like I'm crashing, or crashing through somehow, because when the king steps, if the king stays in the back rank, there's going to be some sort of skewer, and if the king steps to here, I'm going to have some other check, and then there's going to be a problem with protecting the queen. So after here, 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 I don't think he can play g6. So let's say he plays rook to here. Now I can add in my queen somehow, maybe queen to g2. So he has to protect this again, so he goes queen to f8. And then do I have some move there? Some like knockout move. I'm not sure I see it. Unless I bring my rook from g1 to f1 and attack the queen, and he can't block that, so his queen has to come back. And then I have bishop f7, which is pretty nice. So I think this is the move. Okay, so that ended up being, that one was kind of hard. And that's why it has a slightly higher rating than the other ones. You have to see this rook f1 idea. And I'm sorry that the puzzle ended here, because the queen has to move again. You can't block it, the bishop guards. But when the queen moves again, we have this interference idea, where we're cutting off the rook's defense of this square. And even if the rook takes, we can take and then crash through, and I think we're mating. Everything's coming with check, so these aren't participating, and the king's kind of boxed in, which is why it's going to be mate. Okay, well, the obvious first idea is, why are we not taking this rook? The other thing I notice is that, well, black is maybe making a queen. Black is maybe also going here, although it seems like we can, there's no perpetual. So, considerations. One, when we take this rook, this bishop cuts off this diagonal, important to note, which means that there's actually only one response for black. Which means we're actually getting pretty close to checkmate. So it almost makes you wonder, and I'm going to calculate this first, but then another thing to consider is if I can go here and try to, net him before I mate. A couple problems I see with that. One, I think there's this defense. Two, I think there's this defense, because it actually drags the bishop away, and then I'm not covering the square anymore. So doing everything with check is probably preferred. Check, check. And then the question is, do I come back with my queen? Do I have some sneaky bishop move? Actually, that's actually mating, right? That sneaky bishop move. Very easy to overlook, because you want to play on this diagonal, but you have to think about all the ways which you can check the king. And there are two ways to do that. So I think that's just mate in 2, right? Or not mate in 2, but mate in 3, because he has to block. And it's just everything is covered. And the queen covers this still. So, mate in 4. Okay, not very highly rated. The only thing that was hard about that was seeing bishop a3. Okay, endgame puzzle. Whoops. So clearly we're close to queening, and black covers that. But if we were somehow to trade queens, then I think we would queen first and then be able to stop black from queening. So the first move I consider here is queen b1. It's the only check. Black, of course, can't back up without allowing check, and then probably queening. And then even if black gives check, we're going to have... Well, maybe there's perpetual there. I should be careful. Check, even if I block, then there's takes. This is the kind of... yeah, so I should consider again. But again, since this is the only check, it's going to be my first consideration. Of course, I think maybe this is going to be the better response. So after check, but first let's get rid of, like, what if just here? And check, and comes back. Not super obvious. Not to mention, if I go check and then he goes here, I don't have a follow-up check because the queen covers that square. So then, with all that in consideration, my next consideration is, can I make this pawn promote in a different way, like by playing queen to g2, for instance? Because if takes and takes, it's clearly winning endgame, because my king can stop this pawn from promoting. I'll just make my queen. So black can't trade. So what does black do? Black doesn't have any checks, so we're forcing the queen through. So let's say black wants to threaten this pawn here, and then come here. I think we can still make a queen now, because it's not the same perpetual, because after takes, and we block and check, we don't have to block with this queen this way. We can block with our new queen. And that should be enough. So, okay, well, yeah, just don't forget to stop the pawn. You can queen whenever you want. So it's 4 in a row. So, what moves am I considering? Well, the first move I consider is knight f6, because it's a check. It's very forcing. I can take back with my queen, which threatens mate. Black will have to stop mate somehow. I would love it if I could go queen here anyways and takes and then have some sort of mate idea, but after takes with the king, I'm not sure. So instead now I see that there's a different idea, which is just to play queen f6 right away. The idea being that if takes, I actually have a mate. So at first I thought with the knight to get my queen in, but now I realize that this is much stronger, because he can't block the way he did before, because now I've opened up this new square for my knight. So that just looks like that's the right answer. And I'm not premium, so I get only those 5 puzzles. So that was short and sweet. Hopefully that demonstrated my thought process a little better and the order in which I calculated lines. Some of them went kind of deep. That one puzzle with attacking on g7 was kind of complicated. Maybe next time I do this, maybe tomorrow when I have new puzzles, I can do it in a higher rating range, because some of these were pretty straightforward. So that's all for today, and I'll do this again.